So hello guys, and welcome to another discussion video. And over the past couple of years, there's been quite a lot of Nintendo Switch 2 or Switch successor discussion. I've even brought it up a few times in certain videos. But over the past couple months, things have been spiraling out of control. I've already mentioned this discussion surrounding backwards compatibility, which was kind of like heating up a couple months ago. But now, we're kind of getting even more, since apparently there was a demo shown off to, like, I think like certain developers at Gamescom, like where they showed like tech demos and everything, like, behind closed doors. And this is getting pretty interesting. Obviously, I'm taking this with a grain of salt like I do any rumor, because none of this is confirmed, and I really don't like to cover these topics that often. I'm not like those YouTubers who make, like, 10 videos a week about, like, the Switch 2 and stuff like that, or whatever Nintendo Direct rumor is happening. But there definitely does seem to be a little more credibility behind this one, since this seemed to be backed by multiple sources around the same time, kind of saying certain things about this. And another noteworthy thing to mention is the fact that Pioro retweeted the one article that Eurogamer released and everything about the Switch 2 and everything. So, and if you haven't heard of Pioro before, he basically has been leaking certain Nintendo announcements, as well as like announcements from other companies like Sega with Sonic Superstars and everything, over the past couple months now. At least this account has been within the realm of like attention over the past couple months here. Like the most notable thing that he's leaked so far was Mario Wonder and the Super Mario RPG remake, but almost everything he's been leaking has been correct. Like, recently there was the one Rabbit skin for Sonic Superstars, as well as the N64 game. Various things like that have been correct. But there is the possibility that this one retweet is just like something he agrees with, rather than like something that he knows about, because apparently Pioro, most of the information that he's been getting is speculated or at least implied to be from like private videos or scheduled videos that Nintendo hasn't published yet. So that's always a possibility. It could always just be something like he's just throwing around, not necessarily like something he's confirming. But yeah, this is pretty interesting, like this one rumor and everything, since it's probably the most specific one we've gotten so far in terms of like specifications for the console. And just like I said before, this could purely be like fake and just speculation and everything, because a lot of this just seems like they were kind of guessing the specs of the Switch 2 and everything, but there is still the possibility this could have been shown off to developers at Gamescom. But yeah, so basically one of the claims is that this console has 12 gigabytes of RAM, and it also has like the AI upscaling with deep learning super sampling, which basically is for various hardware to actually run games that would otherwise not look as good on that hardware. So it is a pretty impressive technology, and there's been a lot of speculation about Nintendo using it over the past few years. I believe Nintendo even like filed like certain patents and things about like AI upscaling for things. I'm not too sure, but yeah, there's been a lot floating around about like the DLSS, and then also various things from like NVIDIA as well. So like I definitely could see that happening, and they also mentioned DLSS 3.1 rather than DLSS 5, which kind of makes sense since I feel like the newer versions, the very newer versions of DLSS, I feel like that would be a bit too advanced for the hardware that Nintendo's trying to target for the Switch 2. And then also 12 gigabytes of RAM. That's an interesting thing to bring up, since that's not quite as much as the PS5 and the Xbox Series X, but that's still very impressive for a partially handheld, mostly handheld console, because the Switch is, at its core, a handheld console, even though it is technically a home console as well. It's just based off of, like, handheld console infrastructure and everything, like what the console's kind of based on. So, yeah, I think that would be pretty impressive to see, like, 12 gigabytes of RAM in this next console and everything. I am a bit skeptical of it, though, because that is pretty powerful for something that would be, like, a handheld and everything. So, that would kind of drive up the price of what this could potentially be. Like, I could not see this being, like, $299 or $300, or even $350, where the OLED was launched at. I could see this probably being like $400, maybe even $500, maybe not $500, but there still is that possibility there. I feel like $400 to $450 is probably where this is gonna hover around. If these rumors are true, it would be a bit weird to see, because the way Nintendo is kind of pushing out the Switch and everything is definitely has that casual focus. But with the popularization of, like, 4K over the past few years, I feel like there would be a bit more of a market for a Switch that's in 4K and everything, so I feel like the price might be a bit more justified and everything, but I really hope it isn't too expensive. I just don't really see this being, like, the same price as, like, the base Switch and everything. But yeah, and then there were also reports of that one Unreal Engine 5 tech demo with, like, the Matrix that was unveiled a couple years ago in 2021, with that being able to run on the supposed Switch 2. And with Unreal Engine 5, that technically can run on the Switch, like, that technically does support the Switch, but that Matrix tech demo is very impressive. So I feel like it's partially, like, if that ends up being true, I feel like it's possibly making use of, like, DLSS in order to, like, run that and everything, because I can't really see, like, even with the specs that they're kind of showing, or speculating and kind of floating around for whatever the Switch 2 is going to be, I feel like that tech demo still looks a bit too demanding for what the Switch 2 is going to be. So I feel like that could possibly be a case of, like, DLSS kind of making it appear much better on, like, the Switch 2 and everything. And yeah, the reports also said, like, it looks almost as good as, like, the PS5 and Xbox Series X. Like, I feel like when they say it looks as good, I feel like they're probably referring to, like, the upscaling and DLSS, which would make a lot of sense, like, since DLSS is pretty impressive, and it can make certain hardware that isn't as powerful run games in a way where they look like they're running on hardware that's much more powerful, like the PS5 or the Xbox Series X, or even beyond that, like a high-end PC. So yeah, I could definitely see how these games could be looking a lot better, but this would just be pretty interesting, and it would kind of go beyond our expectations of what we were thinking the Switch 2 to be, since I didn't really think the Switch 2 was going to be, like, that much more powerful than the Xbox One or PS4, just kind of based off of my own predictions and my own speculation based on how Nintendo handles things, I do think it might be, like, before any of these, like, rumors popped up, I was kind of speculating that it would be, like, a bit more powerful than that, but, like, not quite on the level that some of these reports are saying. These reports definitely seem to be kind of in between the power of, like, the PS4 and the PS5, so kind of, like, hovering around that. So that would be pretty interesting to see, as that would make the Switch 2 the closest Nintendo has ever been to being, like, very close, or at least decently close in power to the other consoles on the market, which would be pretty interesting. I feel like Nintendo does have incentive to kind of make a console that powerful, though, because there are quite a lot of games that can't run very well on the Switch. So I feel like that would definitely make it so where it could last longer as a console, as the upper limit for graphics is getting much closer now, so it could definitely last longer than how the Switch is lasting with, like, the decade-plus-old hardware. Having a more powerful console with DLSS that would put the graphics almost to what you'd expect to see on current-gen consoles, I feel like that would definitely kind of, allow for a lot of games to be ported. Like, a lot of current-gen games and everything. Like, for example, like, the Resident Evil 4 remake, the Final Fantasy VII remake, the, Street Fighter 6, just, even, like, Elden Ring, things like that. I'm thinking, like, a lot of these games could be ported to, like, the Switch 2 and everything. I think that, like, there would definitely be a lot of, third-party games in the launch here of the Switch 2 if this ends up happening. So yeah, I think these rumors, even though I'm taking them with a grain of salt, it does seem to be somewhat interesting with what I'm seeing here. And it would be very interesting if Nintendo actually made a console that has hardware that's comparable to the current gen console. Obviously not on the same level, because it still is technically partially a handheld, so it would have to make use of some upscaling. But it would be interesting to see, like, the Switch 2 actually run some current gen games. I just hope that a lot of games on this console actually run at 1080p 60 FPS at the very least. I think that's the least of what we could expect from this next console. But yeah, anyways, thank you guys for watching this video. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more, and make sure to check out my Discord server and Amazon affiliate link if you want to. Goodbye.